The Isuzu D-Max X-Terrain is a pretty convincing high-spec dual-cab ute, but I reckon you should be buying one of the lower grade versions. I'll tell you why in this review. G'day, my name's Matt. This channel's called The Right Car, and I can see why you think the D-Max X-Terrain could be the right ute for you if you're after something that has plenty of features, a pretty assertive price point. I mean, it's not cheap, but it is cheaper than some of the big name rivals out there. And it's also got some interesting exterior looks to it that the other models in the range don't get. But does that really matter? Let's discuss it in this review. The X-Terrain is probably the version of the D-Max that you want, but is it the one you need? Look, there are a bunch of different, more affordable takes on this ute, including the SX grade, which has like more than a dozen permutations. So there's single cab, there's extra cab, there's dual cab, there's 4x2, there's 4x4, there's cab chassis and pickup versions of that entry-level version. So look, if you are after a work-focused ute, it could be a really good option for you. And if you're after a really affordable single cab chassis, then the base model really makes a lot of sense. It's only like 33 grand. So drive away, that is, as well. So it does seem to make sense if you are looking for a more affordable ute. And then there are some versions above that as well. So there's the LSM, there's the LSU and the LSU Plus. And it's the LSU Plus that I think could be the right car for a lot of people who are looking for a lifestyle-ish ute, but still with some hardcore work-ready credentials. So it does have some really nice interior features. It's got the same big 9-inch touchscreen media system as this ute. And it's also got LED lights, alloy wheels, side steps, all that sort of stuff. So it does have some really good features for the money. It's just whether it's a big enough saving over the X-Terrain to justify it, because the X-Terrain does get a model specific look. So you get these flared arches, different wheels, there's dark finishes on the exterior which separate it from the other models in the lineup. And on the inside it gets red stitching on the leathery seats. They're leathery, some leather bits and some not. And you also got some extra red stitching across the dashboard on the doors as well. There's also electric front seat adjustment for the driver. There's heated front seats as well. Climate control, as you would expect. And in the tub, there's a liner and you get a roller cover for the tub too. It's not electric like some of the other utes out there, but it is still a handy thing to have. There's an interesting looking sailplane on the back as well with red graphics, which might be to your taste or might not. Side steps, so it does have a whole bunch of really good features, but it's just whether it's worth waiting for or whether you should buy one of the more affordable versions and add a few features yourself if budget isn't the big issue. If time is more important to you than money, then, well, maybe you should be looking at one of the other versions of this ute. But maybe you should also be looking at some of the alternatives to the D-Max, which I'm going to tell you about now. Okay, ute segment is very competitive, so there are a fair few really good alternatives to this vehicle. First one I would recommend is the Ford Ranger. Look, there's a bunch of different variants available, and I really like that ute. I think it drives nicely, it has a really good interior, and look, there are some question marks over reliability. There has been in the past, and there probably will be this time around as well. There are some stories already coming out about some issues with that generation of Ranger, but that's what your new car warranty is for. If you can afford to maybe have the ute off the road for a couple of days, if it needs something fixed, then fine. But I could see why you might also go for the other alternative, which is the big name seller, the Toyota Hilux. It has one of the best reputations for reliability in Australia when it comes to utes, so it could be a really good choice for you if you do really value Toyota reliability and the fact that it does have, well, a less pleasant ride and drive experience than some of the other more refined and comfortable utes out there. My third alternative is the Volkswagen Amarok. You can get a fair bit of really good Amarok for a fair bit less money than this. So I recommend checking one of those out if that is something that you would consider. Look, I know there are people out there who don't love Amaroks either, but hey, utes are like tribal. If you're an Isuzu person, you're probably just going to buy a D-Max anyway, right? The D-Max isn't one of the biggest utes on sale, but it's not small either, at about 5.3 meters long, and it does look pretty good, I reckon. It's aging gracefully this generation. I like the X-Terrain to a degree. There are some elements I don't love. I'm not so hot on these stickers, and I'm not really hot on these little flary bits down the bottom there. I think if you go off-roading, can say goodbye to those pretty quickly. Now, let's talk about the tray, because there are some interesting elements here, some model specific stuff as well. So you get the roller tonneau cover here as well. It's not an electric one like you do get in a Ranger or Amarok, so that might be a consideration for you, but let's take a look inside the tub. All right, let's check out the tray. So first things first, it's got a nice damped tailgate opening, which is really good to see. These things always trick me a little bit, so just bear with me. There we go, you've got to pull it to the right to unlock it. Okay, push it open. It's not the most pleasant noise, is it, people? Look, this tray is about what you would expect for a dual cab ute of this size. You'll see the dimensions on your screen now. So it is definitely big enough for most people's needs. You can't fit a pallet between the wheel arches. And hey, also keep in mind that if you do buy the X-Terrain, this roller cover does take up quite a bit of space right at the end of the bed here. A spray-in liner would be a much better option if you ask me, because it has a bit more grip to it, but this tub liner will at least protect the paint underneath. Just means that it is also pretty slippery. So probably good if you are going to do gardening and that sort of stuff, as I did. It's easier to rake out, but not so good if you have loose items that might fly around in the tub. There's a couple of tie down points in there as well, so it is pretty practical in terms of the ute space. Also, I should tell you what the payload details are for this grade. So I'll put the X-Terrain's payload numbers on your screen now. Also the gross vehicle mass, so that's what you're allowed to have on board, and also the gross combination mass, which is what you're allowed to have with the towed load behind as your total mass. Just keep in mind that you really need to do the maths to figure out whether you've got 5 adults, a boot full of luggage, or a tray full of luggage I should say, and a trailer on the back, just how much of an impact that has on your total allowable mass. At least in the D-Max is better than some others. The interior of the D-Max X-Terrain does feel pretty special compared to the lower grade versions, and a lot of that comes down to the trim finishes that I've already mentioned. This red stitching across the dashboard, you've got red stitching on the doors, red stitching on the seats. These have some leather bits to them, but lots of fake leathery bits as well. They're comfortable, they're supportive, and they do have electric adjustment on this side, but manual on the passenger side. I reckon they are one of the nicest ute seats that you can get, and also they make for a really good road tripper, so it could be a really good option for you if you know you're going to spend a lot of time in your ute doing big Ks. Now also, I will say that there are elements of this cabin which do stand out from a practicality front. So you've got little pop-out cup holders at the edges of the dashboard, which you don't get in the twin to this, the Mazda BT50. You also get a little pop-up glove box thingy up the top here. There's another glove box thingy here and another glove box down below. So you've got lots of storage options in terms of loose item storage. There's a little storage tray down here, but sadly no wireless phone charger, which seems silly in 2023 or 24 if you're watching this then. Yeah, it should have a wireless phone charger because it's got wireless Apple CarPlay, so it's just silly not to have that. You can option one if you want to, but I've just been running it on cable because I think that it's a bit more reliable anyway. Now, speaking of this screen, it does take a long time for Apple CarPlay to kick in. So at times you can drive away and be almost at your destination before it figures out that it had a wireless Apple CarPlay connection that it should be calling upon. But it does get a little bit annoying, and it gets a little bit tedious as well, because say you're on a phone call and you want to get straight into the ute and drive somewhere while you're still on that phone call. That can be really, really frustrating. You might have to sit and wait for it to connect, and the other person on the end of the line is going to be saying, "What's going on? I can't hear you. Can you hear me? I've lost you. Oh no, I'll call you back." It's annoying, right? So the controls for the screen are okay. They're only okay. There is not a whole lot of greatness in this screen. It's even worse in the lower grade versions with the smaller display, which has just massive bezels all around it. Look, it's not terrible. And if you just rely on Apple CarPlay, you're probably going to be fine with it. But for the native software in here, it's just slow and glitchy at times. I don't think it's the best. There is SatNav as well. It's okay, but I never use SatNav. Do you? Let me know in the comments section. There's also a little digital instrument screen in front of the driver here, but nothing high tech or, you know, really wow factory like in Amarok or Hilux even, or the Ranger, which has a big 12-inch screen as well. So Yeah, it's starting to feel a little bit outdated already. That just shows you how quickly the Ute segment is moving. But otherwise, I think it's all right. Oh, you've also got cup holders between the seats here. They're very deep, so if you have a piccolo, for whatever reason, you might find that it is a little bit too deep to put your coffee in there, but you can just put it in the pop-out cup holder up here instead. It's covered center console bin as well. Bottle holders in the doors, as you would expect. Nice soft elbow pads as well. Don't love the dark headliner, but hey, each to their own. Let's check out the back seat. Back seat space for someone my size, I'm 182 centimeters or 6 foot, is good. I've got enough foot room, just enough knee room, and decent headroom as well. Some of the other Utes in this class, I find that my knees are quite hard up against the seat in front of me when I'm sat behind my own driving position, including the Ranger and the Amarok. So this is pretty good in terms of backseat room. Now, there's a few nice features in here for younger or older occupants who are getting into the back seat. You've got a grab handle up here, but you've also got a pull-in handle, so that'll help you hoik yourself up into the back seat if you need it. There's side steps as well on this grade too. And when it comes to the amenities in here, it's pretty well sorted. So you've got directional air vents, there's a USB port here, a couple of map pockets, a little flip down shopping bag hook here as well. There's bottle holders in the doors and a pair of cup holders in this flip down armrest in this spec too. Now, as I mentioned, ISOFIX points are available to you on the window seats, but you do have to tether to the center point only. It's only one top tether. That's not as good as some of the other Utes out there. Now, if you're not going to use the back seat for people all that often, you'll be happy to know that there is a way that you can just flip up the bases, and then you've got a more secure storage space for tools or loose items, whatever it may be. If you're worried about things getting stolen off the work site and you don't trust the lock on the tray there, then that could be a really nice little extra bit of security for you. Yeah, not too bad. In the entry-level versions of the D-Max, there's now a 1.9 litre 4-cylinder turbo diesel engine. It's available with a 6-speed manual or 6-speed automatic transmission in 4x2 or 4x4. You'll see the power and torque outputs on your screen now. They are a little bit discounted compared to what you get in this version, which is with the 3-litre engine, but it still could be a pretty competitive and compelling option for some buyers who are on a strict budget. But this 3-litre engine is the one that we know and love and is tried and tested, and it does seem to be a pretty good bet when it comes to power and torque outputs as well. You see them on your screen now, and it also comes with a 6-speed manual or 6-speed auto and 4x2 or 4x4. So there's a bunch of different options available in the D-Max range. It really depends what you are after, and you should be able to find the ideal engine transmission combo for you. Now, all versions come with a maximum braked towing capacity of 3.5 tons, and this version also comes with a tow bar and hitch receiver as well. So it does have a really good credential when it comes to that towing aspect, that lifestyle aspect, I guess you might say. Now, I've done a towing test in a D-Max before. I did a comparison against a Ford Ranger in my old days at Cars Guide. Hit the link up there and you'll be able to check out that comparo. Yeah, the D-Max was okay, but it wasn't as good as a Ranger when it came to towing. Now, let's go for a drive. No towing in this review though. First things first, it is a bit noisy. The diesel engine's a bit of a rattler, so it's not necessarily the most refined or relaxing drive experience, but it isn't as loud as the old D-Max was. It's just maybe a little bit noisier than some of the other new Utes out there. Noise aside, I reckon this engine is pretty good. It's adequate in most situations. At times it can feel just a little bit breathless compared to some of the other Utes out there which have, you know, considerably more torque. And I'm not just talking the V6s from the big name twins, but there's also the bi-turbo engines and even the Hilux's engine, which now gets up to 550 Newton meters, 100 Newton meters more than this. So yeah. I will say though that D-Maxes tend to feel like they're doing a bit better work when there's a bit more being asked of the engine. So it's just me on board right now, no load or anything like that. So that might be how you drive a lot of the time as well. But it just, sometimes when you load these Utes up, they tend to feel like they enjoy it, which is a bit weird. In this X-Terrain version, there's a 6-speed automatic transmission, just like a lot of the other grades in this lineup, and it is a pretty good auto box. It's pretty thoughtful in the way that it shifts gears, and you don't really have to think too much about it, although at times it does have this engine braking thing where if you're going down a hill, it will drop back a gear and try and exhaust brake for you, and that can be just a little bit annoying because it's noisy, remember? Another thing I'll just call out is that while it does have a better ride than some utes, like in living day-to-day situations, I reckon the ride comfort is better in a D-Max than it is in a Hilux, for instance. But it can be pretty sharp and pretty fierce over sharp edges. So if you encounter a lot of those, like potholes or really sharp speed bumps or whatever, it might just feel just a touch punishing. But I wouldn't say that it is uncomfortable. I would just say that it's a ute, and you know, they're designed to do a million jobs, and tooling around town by yourself is not the primary one. So don't be surprised that it does have a bit of a sharp edge to it. So the smaller capacity engine is theoretically always going to be a much more efficient option than the higher capacity version. So the 1.9, you'll see the figures on your screen now, the official combined cycle fuel consumption numbers for that engine, and that's a range, so that's across a few different iterations of the 1.9 litre powertrain. And on your screen now, you'll see the 3 litre engine's fuel consumption figures. Now that's, again, a range across the different permutations of this vehicle. And look, that's not bad, I don't think. If you can achieve that, you'll be happy, but I've seen a bit higher than that over my week of normal testing. You'll see the figure on your screen now, which involved a mix of highway, freeway, open road, and the urban boring stuff that we all tend to do. So yeah, that might be what you achieve. Remember, if you're going to tow, you're going to see a lot higher fuel consumption. If you're going to go off-roading, same story there too. The D-Max has a maximum 5-star ANCAP safety rating from 2022, so it's a pretty recent scorecard, and it does have a bunch of active safety technology as standard across the entire range, including autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian and cyclist detection. There's lane keeping assistance, blind spot monitoring, recross traffic alert, and a reversing camera. Some grades don't have reversing sensors, depending on if you choose a cab chassis or a pickup, but there's also front parking sensors on some high-grade models. But sadly, no version comes with a surround view camera, which I think would be a handy thing to have. Now, airbag coverage is good. There's dual front side, a front center, and full-length curtain coverage. So it does seem to stack up really, really well when it comes to the safety stuff. Oh, and I also like that you can turn off the lane keeping assistance with a flick of a button on the steering wheel. All you got to do is hold it down and it goes off. You've got to do it every time you drive it though. Warranty cover for the D-Max is 6 years and 150,000 kilometers, which is pretty good. It just depends how many Ks you plan to do. If you do lots, it might be too short for you, but hey, I think it's still pretty generous. Now, there's also 7 years of roadside assistance included when you buy a D-Max 2, and there's cap price servicing as well, with intervals every 12 months or 15,000 Ks, which is better than a Hilux, which is 6 months, 10,000. And you'll see the prices for the 1.9 litre version of this ute on your screen. It's a little bit more affordable to service than the 3 litre version, which is on your screen now. That's the average over a 7-year cap price servicing plan. So just keep that in mind. It's not necessarily expensive to service, and it is still cheaper than a Hilux on a yearly basis, but might be something you want to keep in mind. So, is the X-Terrain worth the wait if you are sold on an Isuzu D-Max? Look, I think it will be for some people. If you're going to use this ute for play more than you will for work, then it could be a really good choice for you. But if you are into something that is a bit more work focused, then maybe the LSU or LSU Plus would be a better bet for you. But tell me what you think in the comments section below. Would you choose a D-Max? Do you own one already? Have you had any issues with it? I'd love to hear from you. And if you haven't already, please do like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more ute reviews. And let me know if there's any other utes you want me to test. I'll see if I can do it for you. Cheers, see you later.